So, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, good morning.
Morning.
So, so anyone would like to summarize what we have seen previous class? What did we see? There can be two types of nucleation depending on the reactant phases. If both the reactants are in the same phase, we get a homogeneous nucleation. If the different phases, if the reactants are in different phases, then the nucleation can be heterogeneous. Whether it is a homogeneous or heterogeneous, unless supersaturation happens, nucleation cannot take place. Okay, so in a homogeneous nucleation, which is said to be the system said to be high energy, it means a solute containing in a solvent is a high energy, which is unstable, which undergoes automatic segregation, leading to the formation of precipitate through formation of nuclei. So whenever a nucleation takes place, there are two events associated with it. So volume free energy change and surface energy. Both have to be compromised. Both are occurring simultaneously and compromised, and there is a thermodynamic feasibility to form the precipitate. And we have also seen that whenever the solute concentration is larger than that of the solubility, then only precipitate can take place. So we have mathematically quantified this volume free energy change, delta G star, and we have also quantified the minimum critical size that is required to form the nuclei, R star also we have quantified. So I given the complete mathematical equation. I ask you to solve the mathematical equation and bring about delta G star and R star. So delta G star is the minimum free energy change that is required to form the nuclei, and R star is the corresponding nuclear size to be formed. Then the growth can take place, the particle size growth can be visualized, and the precipitate can take place. When I say precipitate, it need not be a precipitate, solid precipitate, maybe a solid dissolved or dispersed in the liquid phase, like a colloid. Okay, so it can be a nanocolloid or microcolloids, etc. Okay, so what else we have seen? Yes, please.
Sir,
Yes,
I
please.
get this derivative delta G star equal to 16 pi gamma divided by 3 delta GV whole square. Sir, this is not whole
Very
square.
good.
3 is not
Square,
whole square.
square,
Del
square.
Sir, delta G, sir, I have one mistake
Yeah,
in
yeah.
here because this is
Okay.
mistake here. I think.
So the correct answer is 16 pi r cube divided by 3 delta GV square.
Sir, this
Must
is not
be.
whole square. Just delta GV
It's not whole
square.
square. 3 into delta GV square.
Yeah,
It's not whole square.
yeah.
Yeah. That is let. I think I need to correct every
Okay,
batch.
sir.
I am getting
Here
this.
is
Every batch I am getting this thing. I need to correct. It's not
yes, sir.
3
Yes,
delta
sir.
GV square. It is not
Yes,
3 delta GV whole square, but it is just 3 delta GV square. Correct. Yeah.
GV square. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good. You got this value delta G star. Anybody else? Anybody else has worked out? What about a hot star? What is hot star?
Sir, R star is correct, sir. I
Hot
got
star.
it this point.
You got it correct. What is that value?
The value is equal to minus 2 gamma divided by delta GV.
Yeah, correct. So, yeah, minus 2 gamma divided by delta GV. So how you have to get? You have to differentiate this equation with respect to R equate to 0. Then replace R by R star and G by G star. So then you will get G star and substitute G star in this G and you get R star. Okay, so I have worked out already. Those who have not worked out, you can just have a look. So you'll be able to see my screen. Are you seeing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this equation delta G is equal to 4 pi R cube delta GV plus 4 pi R square gamma. So differentiate this equation with respect to R equal to 0 is dou delta G divided by dou R is equal to 0. So then differential of this equation is equal to 0. So then you make R into R star. Okay, so then you take R star in one side, then it will become minus 2 gamma delta GV. So now you take this R and substitute here, or you will get delta G. So now the delta G will become delta G star. So the simplified version of this delta G star is, so 16 pi R cube divided by 3 delta GV square. Unfortunately, in the slide it shows the whole square. So please kindly correct it. Yeah, so I appreciate those who have done this exercise, small exercise. Okay, so the take home point is the minimum free energy change should be there. That is delta G star. So corresponding to the minimum critical size, R star. So if you know these values, we should be able to calculate what is the delta G star and R star. So what is delta GV? What is delta G? Volume free energy change. So that is negative. So negative. So you will get positive R star. Some size you will get. Few nanometer, it may be 1 nanometer, 2 nanometer, depending on the conditions, reaction conditions. So definitely delta G will be negative, okay, because delta GV is negative. So the delta G star should be negative, will be negative. Okay, so there should be a minimum critical size and there should be a minimum barrier energy that should reach. Then you can expect a formation of nanocolloids or nanoparticles. Okay. So this is what we have seen last class to get a still smaller particle. So these are the external parameters you can control. So temperature, additives, impurities, time, etc. Okay. So generally lower the temperature, lower the size you will get it. And generally lower the concentration, you will get lower the particle size or vice versa. And if you had any additives or impurities, still you can get lower particle size. I have one more slide in this regard. We will come back to this size distribution later. Anything else we have seen in the last class? Anybody else would like to make some comments, clarification, additions, suggestions? We'll move on. We'll go ahead. So a little more on the nucleations. We have been looking at nucleation. We have 3 events in the chemical synthesis of nanostructured materials. There should be a supersaturation. Supersaturation should follow the nucleation. So we are now in the nucleation step. Once the nuclei forms, growth will take place and you can expect the particle to be formed or precipitate to be formed. Okay, so we have seen 2 types of nucleation. Okay, so depending on the phases of the reactant and what are the minimum size it has to form, when it can form, etc. How you can manipulate the size and the distribution, we have seen it. Little more on the nucleations. So using this diagram, Lammer diagram, you can still understand the nucleation process much better. So this is the solute concentration versus the reaction progress. What is solution concentration? So for example, if you are trying to precipitate titanium oxide, so then you need to have one starting material, titanium starting material you need to have. It may be a titanium tetrachloride or any other titanium salt. So then it must be dissolved in some solvent, let's say water or alcohol or any suitable solvent. So then you are adding some precipitating agent. So this solute concentration means concentration of the reactant, that is essentially titanium source, titanium ion. And you monitor this titanium ion concentration with respect to reaction progress. What is reaction progress? Time of the reaction. You are starting 0 time, 10 seconds, 50 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. Why not? Hours, 10 hours, 20 hours, etc. And if you monitor the concentration of titanium, the profile would look like this. So there is a gradual increase in the concentration, solid concentration. There is a maximum, then there is a decline. After that, it will go down. If no titanium ions available, it will go down. So you can segregate this profile into 3 stages. First stage, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So stage 1 is a creation of the supersaturation. Then stage 2 is a creation of nuclei. Then stage 4 is the growth of the nuclei. So this stage must occur in order to have the nucleation. So that's what we are seeing. So there must be a creation of supersaturation. Once the supersaturation happens, nuclei will form. Then several nuclei can combine together and make a particles, growth particles, large particles. Okay. So we have 2 types of nucleation here. We have already seen another 2 types of nucleation. Homogeneous nucleation and heterogeneous nucleation. What is homogeneous nucleation? Nucleation process taking place from the same phases of the reactant. Maybe solid, or liquid, or gaseous state. Then the nuclei formed in these phases, any of these 2 phases, any 2 pair of these phases is homogeneous nucleation. Whereas the reactant can be different phases, solid and liquid, solid and gas, or gas and liquid, gas and any other combination. Then the nucleation formed is known as heterogeneous nucleation. Now I will introduce another 2 versions of nucleation, known as homogeneous nucleation. So this is within the phases how the nuclei is formed. Whether the nuclei are formed simultaneously or one at a time. Whether the nuclei are formed, all nuclei are formed simultaneously or one at a time. So if the nuclei are formed simultaneously, maybe something like this. All nuclei are formed simultaneously. We call this as a homogeneous nucleations. On the other hand, nuclei can form one at a time. One nuclei is formed. By the time second nuclei forms, so the nuclei which is already formed has grown into larger, something like this. By the time third nuclei is formed, the second nuclei formed, already the first nuclei formed has grown into larger size. You see, this type of nucleation is known as random nucleation or heterogeneous nucleations. Whereas this nucleation is known as homogeneous nucleation. All the hundreds of thousands of nuclei are formed simultaneously at the same time. Whereas in this case, one at a time. By the time second or third nuclei are formed, already formed nuclei has grown into larger size. Can you guess which you would be preferring? Which type of nuclei you would be preferring? Or what are the characteristics you can get from these 2 types of nucleation? Can I have any response?
Homogeneous nucleation.
Yes, please. Homogeneous nucleation is preferred, right? What is the characteristic you can expect?
We should get identical particle size.
Yes, you will get identical particle size because all the nuclei are formed simultaneously. Then the growth also can take place simultaneously. So let's say if the formed nuclei is having a 10 nanometer size. After growth, maybe it might stabilize up to about 30 nanometer or 50 nanometer. but all will stabilize at the same size. You will be able to get this kind of morphology. This kind of morphology. Homogeneous or mono-sized identical sized particles. Identical sized particles. Whereas random nucleation, this is heterogeneous nucleation or random nucleation. This heterogeneous nucleation is different from the nucleation, random heterogeneous nucleation forming from different phases. You understand, right? Yes. So this heterogeneous nucleation will definitely lead to poly-sized particles because it is obvious. It is obvious. By the time third or fourth or 10th nuclei formed, this has grown into larger size. It is difficult to get identical particle size when the nucleation is undergoing random nucleation or heterogeneous nucleation. I am reiterating, this heterogeneous nucleation is different from that what we have spoken few slides before. That is taken place between the phases, but this is within the phases how the nuclei are formed, whether they are formed simultaneously or one at a time. Okay, so this is the characteristic you will get. Monodispersed particles are identical particles one can expect if the nucleation is following homogeneous nucleation. All nuclei is formed at a time simultaneously, whereas random nucleation or heterogeneous nucleation involves nucleation at different time intervals, will lead to poly-sized particles or random particles. Random particles or poly-sized particles. Okay, so once the nuclei is formed, several nuclei will combine together and make a growth particles. Then the growth will take place. But we have seen that the challenge is to have the mono-sized particles. Mono-sized means same size particles. And we also wanted to have a same shape of the particles. This can be obtained if you manipulate reaction conditions. If you separate nucleation and the growth, it is possible to control the size of the particles. Let's say nuclei is formed and the nuclei is growing, and if you arrest the nuclei growth, then the particle size can be controlled. Okay, further growth of the nuclei may not be taking place or may not be possible or will be arrested. Then whatever the size we have arrested, that will be maintained and will precipitate. Okay, so you separate the nucleation and growth step. Then it means it's not literally separating. You distinguish the nucleation and growth steps. There are ways of doing that. You can do time growth, temperature growth, or add some stabilizing agent, or so harass the nucleation, inject some additives. These are the ways you can do to separate nucleation and growth. Practical parameters. If you harass the temperature, so you can get a lower size particles. Or if you conduct the reaction at a high temperature, generally will lead to larger size particles, because larger temperature or high temperature will lead to sintering of the process, definitely will lead to large particle size. Growth will be facilitated. Diffusion of particles will be facilitated, and you will get large particle size. Maybe sometimes a random particle also, because growth can be random and particle size also can be random. Time and temperature, and you can add some stabilizers to arrest the particle size. I told you in the beginning of this unit, there is a test tube added with some material called thiols, having some blue color representation. That is the stabilizer. That is the stabilizer. We will see more on this today. Okay, so the take home point is to control the particle size or grain size or growth is to separate the nucleation and growth. Okay, so if the concentration of the reactant, that is, we call it as a monomer concentration, is low, so then the further growth can be limited. Once the nuclei is formed, further growth can be limited. Then also you can control the particle size. So separate the nuclei and growth, reduce the monomer concentration or lower the concentration of the reactant or the monomer will lead to intent nucleation, and then further arrest will lead to less particle size. Okay, but on the other hand, slow growth will produce nearly spherical particles instead of rapid nucleation or intense nucleations. Okay, so generally slow growth will lead to spherical particles because the growth of the nuclei can be equilibrated and a finite size can be obtained. If you arrest before reaching the finite size, you will end up with a random size or random shapes. Okay, so then the other parameter to control the particle size is you have to use less concentration. Generally, less concentration lead to smaller particles. You see here, so there are two profiles here. This the reaction progress or the particle size you can take up, and the growth rate. So if you have a high concentration, larger growth, larger particle size. Then if you have a lower concentration, lower growth and lower particle size. Okay, so it means the take-home point for the synthesis of nanomaterial is you have to use concentration low, and you have to arrest that reaction at quickly, and you have to conduct the reaction at a less temperature, not very high temperature. Then in addition to all these practical parameters, you can also add some stabilizing agents or protective agent or capping agents in order to harass the growth of the nuclei, and you can get a lesser particle size or shape. I think this cartoon will give you better information about the time growth. So let's say you are preparing a gold particles or silver particle or any other oxide or anything material, and you have set up the reaction and 0 time, maybe unlimited time or 1000 seconds or whatever the time it takes. Okay, and you see that so at the wedge of the reaction starting, you see that the nuclei are formed, several nuclei will combine and aggregates will be formed, and as the time progresses, several nuclei combine together and make a particles, and at a sufficiently large time, all the nuclei will combine and make a larger particles. So at a sufficiently larger time, all the nuclei will be combined and make a significant large size particles. So let's say if you are arresting the reaction at this time, between maybe 600 seconds and 400 seconds and 600 seconds. So you are arresting the reaction. How you can arrest the reaction? Maybe you had some stabilizing agent, or you do not supply the temperature, or you had some protective agents. So then the reaction will be arrested. Then the nucleation or the growth, whatever happened, the aggregation has taken place, will be arrested to this size. So it is not possible to grow beyond this. So you will be able to control the size. So time grows, temperature growth. Okay, so in order to have a lesser particle size or particle size distribution, etc. Okay, so we can have your two types of nucleation. So homogeneous nucleation, all nuclei, which involves all nuclei forming at the same time, leading to monodispersed particles. Heterogeneous or random nucleation involves a nucleation at a time, or at a time interval nuclei are formed. By the time the second or third nuclei are formed, the already formed nuclei will grow into larger size. Will end up with the polydispersed particles or random sized particles, poly-sized particles. So that's about nucleation. What about growth? What about growth? How the nuclei can grow into larger particles? There are two ways of growing a nuclei, or nucleation growth can take place. It can be a diffusion limited process or growth limited process. What is diffusion limited process? So nuclei are formed randomly. Nuclei are formed. So then to have a thermodynamically stable grains, so they move, from far away they move together, closer. Okay, they diffuse through. So several nuclei combine together and make a aggregate or a stable grain. This is diffusion limited process. Nuclei are literally moving within the vessel and make a stable solid grain, large size. What is growth limited process? The nuclei is already formed, on which smaller nuclei are forming and making a larger growth of the particle. This is growth limited process. So I'm sure you will agree with me, diffusion limited process will lead to, as depending on the distance traveled by the nuclei. So the growth of the nuclei can be same size or different sizes. So generally you will end up with the Pauli's dispersed particles. But growth limited particle, since the growth of the particle is taking place on the nuclei, so you can expect a monodispersed particles. So we can expect a polydispersed particle if the nucleation process is random. You can have a monodispersed particles if the nucleation process is homogeneous. Then you can also get monodispersed particles, polydispersed particle, depending on how the growth is taking place. If the growth is taking place by diffusion limited process, you will end up at polycized particles. If the growth of the nuclei is undergoing by growth limited process, you will end up with the monodispersed particles. I hope I made it clear, not complicated. Are you with me? Shall we go ahead? I think I am done with the basics of this chemical synthesis. My slide is visible. Audio, voice is audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
Yes,
sir.
So we are dealing with the chemical synthesis of nanoparticles and nanomaterials or chemical process. We also know that this chemical process is also known as bottom-up approach. From the molecular or ionic precursors, nanomaterials or nanostructures are prepared. So there is a supersaturation creation, nucleation, and growth. There are different types of nucleation and different types of growth can take place. Let's assume, so you have a collection of or a group of some 50 or 100 kids. Let's say they have been put up in some kindergarten or so. Then in another group of people, grown people, maybe let's say college student or like you, university students. What would generally expect if you have these two scenarios? You have freed them. A group of 50 students, age of a very small age, young age, kindergarten or so, and a group of grown students or grown people, same number. What would you generally expect? All the 50 students will be together or will be dispersed after some time? How about you can link with small clusters, right? So I'm sure my experience or my opinion, my experience is all these small kids will be together, maybe playing with something. But these grown student or grown people, they will try to disperse. They will try to be separately, okay, independently. May not be like the group we can encounter with the small kids. Tendency of the small kids is to get agglomerated or get crowded. Maybe they enjoy the crowd. But the grown student or grown people, they want to be separate. Similar situation happens in the nanomaterials. When you make nanoparticles today, and if you see that tomorrow, how the particles would be distributed, And if you see the nanoparticle distribution after a week or after a month, you will see all the particles are aggregated or agglomerated into larger particles. They cannot be separate like a grown people, but like a young kids, they will be together. They will be attracted, and particles, smaller particles will get attracted and make a larger particle size. This requires stabilization of nanoparticles against agglomeration. And when you want to apply these nanoparticles for real applications, then you have to extract these nanoparticles using some solvent or from the solvent and use it for desired applications. And the very advantages of this chemical process is the surface of these nanoparticles grown using chemical reduction or precipitation method. It is possible to decorate. It is possible to modify the surface. You can attach some special groups. Maybe silver nanoparticle surface can be decorated with maybe hydroxyl group or graphene or carbon monoxide or nitro group, sulfur group, thiol group, whose properties are expected to be much better than the surface, unmodified surfaces. So it means whenever you deal with the synthesis of or fabrication of nanostructured materials using solution process, these are the aspects we have to encounter. We need to stabilize the nanoparticles in order to have a highly dispersed particles without undergoing agglomeration. Then you need to really extract the nanoparticles so that you can use it for real life applications. And it is possible to modify the surfaces. And it is possible to manipulate the sizes, shapes, distribution. A process control is very much possible. And it is also possible to adopt mass production of solution-based nanosynthesis. Maybe a batches of nanocolloids, nanoprecipitate can be made. Mass production is possible. But you will have to work out. You have to take care of all these things. Okay, so whenever you encounter or whenever anybody employs a solution-based synthesis of nanostructured materials, they will have to adopt this process. They will have to take a stabilization. What is stabilization? This is what happens. You make nanoparticles today, let's say silver or gold or titanium oxide or nickel oxide, any other for that matter. What we expect is, for example, you have made nanoparticles of sizes, let's say 5 nanometer. All the particles are having same size, same shape, and same distribution, highly dispersed. They are not touching each other. Today, now you made it. Okay. And what we expect? After 1 week also, we expect a similar thing, highly dispersed. That is what we wanted. But it cannot be same. At a time equal to 0, it is like this. If you don't have a stabilization after certain time, so 2 particles may combine together, make like this, or several particles will combine together and make such larger aggregates. At after certain time, X time, it may be 1 day, 2 day, or 1 month, definitely hours, days. And all the particles will combine together like kids. All will mostly join hands and play like this. This is agglomerated particles. This is highly dispersed particles. And with respect to time, it is gradually aggregates or agglomerates. Aggregation leads to agglomerated particles at a certain time if you don't have stabilization. But if you have a stabilizing agent, so what is stabilizing agent? So some functional groups will be held on the surface of some functional groups or anything. We will see that next slide, next 2-3 slides. Something will be held on the surfaces of these nanoparticles. So even at time x, they will retain the same size, because the surface associated with something will not facilitate agglomeration. Like a grown young adult, they will be independent. If not independent, they will not be crowded like kids. They will not be crowded like kids, definitely. So smaller particles get attracted and makes agglomeration. The stabilized nanoparticles will be kept dispersed. No aggregation, no agglomeration. If you are made with the 5 nanometer particle, after 1 week, 10 days, or 1 year or so, you can expect 5 nanometers, highly dispersed. And this process is known as stabilization. Stabilization of nanoparticles using protective agents, stabilizing agent, or capping agents. You believe me, why we need to stabilize? If you don't stabilize, you will get agglomerated particle. What is the problem with agglomerated particles? Properties of these dispersed nanoparticles are different. Properties of agglomerated particles are different. How different this can be? This properties of the agglomerated particle. Properties of the agglomerated particle will be similar to that of the bulk particles, because grain size is grown into micron, but here grain size is 5 nanometer. 5 nanometer particle will have properties that we have seen in the first unit, but agglomerated nearly grains bulk size particles will have its own bulk properties. It's not fascinating, but the properties of the nanoparticles are fascinating. We have seen in the first unit. So you can have a dispersed particles if you adopt or if you have a stabilizing agents. How will you do the stabilization? There are 3 ways of doing stabilizations. 2 ways are, one is steric stabilization, another one is electrostatic stabilization. There is a third way of doing. So third way of doing is electrosteric stabilization. So steric stabilization, electrostatic stabilization, electrosteric stabilization. Electrosteric stabilization. Okay, so we know that small particles get attracted, because we have seen in the first unit that at the nanoparticles, so there is increased electrostatic force of attraction, increased electrostatic force of attraction, and they get agglomerated. You do something on the surface. You attach some molecules on the surface, large molecules like this. All these spikes, they are all some molecules. If all the 100 molecules are having this kind of spikes attached with on their surfaces, will it get attracted and will it make a large grains? No. It's because these molecules are chemical substances or chemical molecules or entities will have a steric effect, will not allow particles to combine and make a larger grain. And this phenomena is known as steric stabilization. There is a steric effect, hindrances against the growth of particles. This is one way of stabilizing the nanoparticles. Instead of having the molecules attached on the surfaces, you can create surfaces with some charges. The particle may have positive charges. If it is held with negative charges, so 2 negative charges cannot be attracted and will stay apart. Or so if particle may be having a negative charge, the surface may end with the positive charges. 2 positive charges cannot combine and make a larger particle, because the same charges will repel each other. Here repelling each other because of the bulky groups. These molecules are bulky. They will put hindrance and then no two particles or several particles cannot combine and make a larger particles. Steric stabilization and electrostatic stabilization. Why electrostatic? There is a charge, there are charges on the surfaces, and these repulsive forces will lead to non-agglomeration. I think this cartoon will give you better information. So molecules, for example, somebody makes cadmium sulfide nanoparticles, let's say 55 nanometer or 10 nanometer, whatever the size you make it. On the surface, these large molecules are attached. Excuse me. Large molecules are attached. And there is another particle that is also attached on the surface with such large molecules. And you have created today. You have synthesized today. And you are leaving it. Let's see tomorrow, day after tomorrow, after 10 days. And they cannot come together and make a larger particle because there are armies here. There are soldiers here. They will protect against agglomeration. Whatever the 5 nanometers you have made it, it will be preserved. It will be preserved. Okay. So this is steric stabilization. Having large groups on the surface of particles attached will not lead to agglomeration and will preserve, will protect, will cap the particle sizes. So against agglomeration, you can expect the same size even after 1 year. The same thing can be done with the charges. Instead of molecules, you can create the charges. There are ways of doing such thing. Practically, it's possible. Okay, so you can have your surface end with a negative charge or positive charge. Let's say if the surface is end with a negative charge, so if all the particles are ending with the negative charges, then no two or higher number of particles can combine together and make a larger particles. So it means whatever the size you make it will be stabilized for a long time. Then once you want to use this cadmium sulfide or silver nanoparticles, so then you will have to process it. You will have to extract it using some solvent. Okay. So then after extracting, you modify the surfaces either for mass production or etc. You can adopt it. Okay. So you should be knowing that these capping agents, protective agents, or stabilizing agents, they are held with the surfaces with some bonds, not very strong bonds, but maybe some dative bonds or covalent bonds, which can be removed by addition of some solvents. So I hope time permits, so you will be allowed to come into the campus. You'll be able to demonstrate such experiments in real life, if time permits. So this is what I told you in the beginning. So when you want to synthesize, so you take starting materials, add ionic precursor or molecular precursor along with the either reducing agent or precipitating agent. So you mix them together. Then you need to add something else, that is the capping agents. So capping agents such as thiols, citrates, or polyvinyl alcohol, or polyvinyl pyrrole, or some polymers in generally. So they will protect against agglomeration. That is the role of thiols or citrate or polymers that we were talking about. So we have seen steric stabilization and electrostatic stabilization. Okay, so some polymers or surfactant if you had in the reaction mixture, that will lead to steric stabilization. Or if you have a ionic solvents, okay, or some polyelectrolyte, so definitely the surface will end with some charged species, either negative charge or positive charges. Then we can have a electrostatic stabilization. So you can also have a combinedly some molecules along with some charges. So both phenomena we have here, electrostatic stabilization and steric stabilization. So only steric stabilization, only electrostatic stabilization, but we can have here, so both electrostatic and steric stabilization. So there are three ways of stabilizing the agent. But whether you adopt a steric stabilization or electrostatic or electrosteric, you need to stabilize. If you don't stabilize, nanoparticle will move back to bulk sizes. So then the properties of the bulk you will see. You will not able to see the nanoscale properties. Nanoscale properties. I think I'm done. So this is one general example, the reaction you can conduct. So to get nanoparticles, you need to have a reactant. So then reactant 2 can be a stabilizing agent or reducing agent. You have seen already what are stabilizing agent or reducing agent. I mean a precipitating agent or reducing agent. So precipitating agent will not reduce a metal ion into metals, but reducing agents will be able to reduce a metal ion into metal. Okay, so reactant 1, reactant 2, then the reaction condition, it may be a temperature or time, or add some stabilizing agents like thiols, etc. So then they conduct the complete reaction, you'll be able to get nanoparticles as a product, maybe of course with some byproducts, maybe some oxidized product. So this is what it happens. From your molecular or ionic precursors, nucleation is taking place. So from the nucleation, so the clusters will be formed, nucleus will be formed, and we can also call them as a crystallites. So then several crystallites will combine together and make a primary particles. Then finally agglomeration leading to grown particles. This is what happens in chemical process. Nucleation followed by growth. This is general example, general reaction, but we can have specific reaction also. So I think this slide is to understand much better. So for example, you take a metal ion, metal cation, maybe auric chloride, add some reducing agent. What will do this reducing agent? It will add electron or add hydrogen. It will reduce the metal ion into metal. So now you had the stabilizing agents. We can also call them as a ligand molecules or protective agents, capping agents. So then all the particles will be capped with the soldiers. So it may be steric stabilization or electrostatic stabilization or electrosteric stabilization. Okay, then you leave it and you preserve it maybe 1 month, 2 months or 1 year, etc. Then whenever you want to use these nanoparticles, you extract it. You remove the solvent and you extract the nanoparticle and use it. So if you don't use this stabilizing agent, all the particles will combine together and make a bulk particles. You will have the bulk particle properties. You can also conduct the reaction or synthesis simultaneously. Okay, so instead of adding a reducing agent and a stabilizing agents one after other, you can add them together simultaneously. You take metal ion, add ligand molecules, so they are available for stabilization. Now you had electron donor or reducing agent or precipitating agent will be precipitated and you will get the similar morphology, similar event will take place. Stabilized metal nanoparticles or stabilized particles. Need not be metal, metal oxides, anything, sulfides, etc. Okay, so these are all general reactions. This is the actual reaction we have seen it. HAUCl3, so yellow color solution or dark yellow color solution. So you take a thiol molecule, stabilizing agent, and this sodium borohydride is a reducing agent. So mix them together, wait for increase the temperature to 120 degree or 100 degree and wait for 10-15 minutes. All the Au3 plus will be reduced to, so depending on the reaction conditions, time and the temperature, all the Au3 plus will be reduced to Au. And so these thiol molecules will be held up at the surfaces. This green circle is the stabilizing agent. They can be thiol, hydroxyl, methyl, or carboxyl, ammonia, amine, etc. Amine, or PVA, PVP, etc. So this stabilizing agent will protect against agglomeration These stabilizing agents also will protect against oxidation of the particles. Very smaller particle, because of the large surface area, they are prone to oxidation quickly, especially if you make iron, cobalt, nickel nanoparticles. Iron nanoparticles, cobalt, nickel nanoparticle, nickel nanoparticles by means of any synthetic methods. And if you don't have a protecting agents, the immediately surface will become oxidized to oxides. We call this as a pyrophoric. Iron nanoparticles, iron, ferrum, nickel nanoparticle, cobalt nanoparticles are highly pyrophoric. It means even at room temperature, because of the highly reactive surfaces, the surface will undergo oxidation, leading to formation of oxides. So if you have a protective agents, it will protect against oxidation. So you see that stabilizing agents, they don't not only stabilize the particle sizes, they also protect against oxidation of the particles. They also protect against the oxidation of particles. Class. Okay, so I think I'm done. So you can also increase the, or you can, whatever the size or shape you want, it is possible to synthesize using chemical synthesis. So definitely it is possible to synthesize spherical particles. Now you take this spherical particle as a precursor or as a seed, add it to the reaction vessel in another reaction. Okay, so then this already grown particle will act as a seed or nuclei. On this particle, the further growth will take place. So we may end up with such morphology particles. Now you add this one as a nuclei. We may get rods or wires. So you see that in chemical synthesis, it is possible to have a spherical particles, or even rods, nanorods, or nanowires. That's why in the beginning I told in this unit, so there are merits of chemical processes, there are merits of physical processes. It is possible to control the shape and the size distribution in chemical process, but in physical process, it is possible to make a large surfaces, large area, large nanostructures. There are merits and demerits in both the methods. Believe it or not, so silver nanoparticles, nanorods, or gold nanorods, or any other such nanorods can be very much prepared using this method, reduction precipitation method, chemical reduction method using sodium borohydride. So you take Ra chloride, take thiol, then sodium borohydride, mediate with some nuclei, okay, already synthesized by other methods, and you will be able to get the wires or rods. So similar to this is one of the popular methods known as a polyol method or polyol reduction method or simply polyol process. So instead of sodium borohydride, so for example, if you want to make a silver nanoparticles in the polyol process, you take a mixture of ethylene glycol plus PBA. Okay, so you will end up with maybe these particles if no stabilizing agents. But if you have a stabilizing agent, maybe different morphology will end up. Cubical morphology you can get, wire morphology you can get. Just manipulating the reaction conditions. Just manipulating the reaction conditions. Okay, here, so PBP will act as a stabilizing agent. Will act as a stabilizing agents. Okay, so if you don't use stabilizing agents, for example, you take a nickel salt, so just have a reducing agent without a stabilizing agent, this is the morphology you will get it. What is the morphology you will get? What is the morphology you see here? This is morphology or canopy. You see all sorts of sizes or shapes. There are spherical particles, smaller spherical, large spherical, very large particle, and something like a cubical, random cube, different shapes. There are shapeless particles, all sorts of shapes and sizes you will get. So we call this as a random shape, random size, and broad distribution if you don't use stabilizing agent. So it means that, so whenever you are getting a random shape, random size, or polycized particle, agglomerated particle, we know that, so the nucleation would have heterogeneous nucleation or random nucleation, heterogeneous nucleation or random nucleation. And we also know that if the nucleation process is a homogeneous nucleation, we would have obtained the same particle sizes or same particle size shapes. So, but this can be obtained by having having stabilizing agents. If you use stabilizing agents, so you will be able to get same size, same particle size. If you don't use, you will get random sizes. If you use stabilizing agent, mono dispersed particles, highly homogeneous, same size, not much agglomerated particles you'll be able to get. Okay, so this chemical reduction method by polyol method or any other method is very much exploited in practical applications. And here is one example. So where one can prepare, so platinum cobalt 1:1 50-50 composition, alloys, nanoparticles, platinum chromium or platinum iron, or for that matter platinum with any metals, for example, which can make alloys with platinum, and they can be deposited on the carbon support. And you believe it or not, this method is very much used to generate catalyst for fuel cell applications. Fuel cell applications. Our group has done this, such experiment, such generation of nanoparticle has done this. So what do you see here is, so the dark spherical particles are nanoparticles. Maybe platinum iron, platinum cobalt, platinum chromium, platinum nickel, etc. Then the gray area is carbon structure, support materials, and directly you can use this for fuel cell application. What else we see here? The particles are highly dispersed, not much agglomerated, and here it looks particle sizes are larger, and particle sizes are little smaller. So this polyol reduction method or chemical precipitation reduction method will help you to manipulate the reaction condition in such a way that you will be able to get the desired morphology, desired size, shape, and distribution of the nanoparticles. And using this reduction precipitation method, it is also possible to get not only alloys, bimetallics is possible, or core shell it is possible to make. Alloy we know, so more than one metal if you combine homogeneously, crystallographically, you will get an alloy. So you can also make this kind of morphology. Need not be only homogeneous. Maybe core can be like this, shell can be another metal. Core can be gold, shell can be silver. Core can be platinum, shell can be nickel or any other thing. We call this as a core shell nanoparticles. So what we have to do is, so you will have to modify the reaction condition, or you will have to select the metal ion sources in such a way that one metal ion will reduce at the first beginning, then followed by metal ion 2. So it means, so the metal ion which undergoes a reduction in the initially, on which second metal ion will undergo reduction and will precipitate. You will get, you may not get, you will, so if both the metal ions are undergoing simultaneous reduction, you will get an alloy. If they are separated, if they are having some time lag, you will end up with the core shell nanoparticles. You believe it or not, properties of this will be different, properties of this will be different. Both may be made up of same material, but so how you have processed it, so whether it is a homogeneous alloy or a core shell nanoparticles will have a different performances, maybe when you employ them for fuel cell applications for that matter. So I think I will stop now. So So if anybody would like to add anything or make some comments, clarifications, you can do so. We'll stop now. I think the tough part of the chemical synthesis I have completed today. You can be happy. So if anybody would like to make some comments, clarifications, we can do so. Okay, otherwise we will end up. Thank you. See you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So I think I need to talk to one person from Bhutan. I think Gimire. Gimire is there. Left already. Okay. See you.